All right, guys, welcome back into another PGA DFS live video. Got the Mexico Championship this week. Already see that we got the comment section going. Love to see that. Already got 9 views going. Love to see that. I'm not sure what's going on with the emoji crew over there, but we'll take it. We'll be going live with the DFS Tavern here in about an hour as well. So this one will be kind of a quicker one just because it's a WGC event. Do not have too much to talk about on it. You know, these smaller field events, you know, you take out half the players and there's not that much edge, meaning there's not that much to talk about. I do really like the Puerto Rico Open this week. I do find an edge in the players there, but DraftKings really dropped the ball on that side this week. You know, I was talking to the 905 Nation members, and, you know, I think the reason why DraftKings did it this way is because the casual NBA fan that hasn't been able to play is probably going over to that WGC event, seeing a lot of those big names there, and just decided to play there. If it was, you know, the highlight, the Puerto Rico Open, they probably wouldn't have got as much exposure to the casual PGA DFS fan. All right. It is going to be a great night there, Tab. I like it. So hey, David, just in the comment section, why do you like the no-cut event? Is it just because you're in it the whole week? See, I don't know. For me personally, I've had weeks in no-cut events where I'm dead in the water up until Sunday, and then my players just start to go off on Sunday, and then I have a good week. And also the vice versa. You know, it's just really not a fun roller coaster. I like knowing, you know, 5 out of 6 across the cut line, and we're good. You know, we're going to cash. And I don't know, that's more my style of play, where I like the predictability, and I like to focus on, you know, quality plays each and every week instead of, you know, more of these hit or miss weeks, which is exactly what the WGC event is. But I do want to touch on some plays, so I'll get into a few of them here. So Webb Simpson is a play that has really started to catch my eyes this week. And I just keep going back to the point where he is just in such great form, and he is such a great stat fit. Now, I know that he doesn't have the best course experience here at T39 and T37, but that's also why he's cheaper than John Rahm, Rory McIlroy, and DJ. But Webb Simpson, out of all those three, is in the best form. He's a great stat fit, like I said. You know, he's top 6 in ball striking, stroke gain total putting, stroke gain approach, scrambling, and you know, he's just made the cut in a ton of his events as well. So he is the number 1 stat fit in the field this week. Now, overall rank, he's 12th, but still, he is a great play this week. And honestly, today I started entering a lot of lineups with Webb. We do have a question coming in, and that brings up some more questions, so I'll touch on that one. So, any worries about Tyrrell Hatton coming off his wrist surgery? So, this question did come up in the comment section on the last video. So, you know, DJ came off of his little injury. Brooks came off of his little injury. You know, all these players, these big-name players like that, I don't think that they would be playing in these events if they didn't think that they could. Now, yes, it's a little bit more risky, but I'm not that worried about it. Just because, you know, Tyrell Hatton, he's a world-class player. I don't see the point in playing in this event if you weren't ready for it. Now, maybe it's because he's always been really electric at this event. You know, he does have that good course history. That could be, but I just don't see why a golfer would take the risk in playing an event like this if they didn't have to. That is very true, DFS Chef. Very different player compared to the last few years, but we do worry about when that's going to drop off, especially after that victory. That's kind of my only hesitation, is that he finally won. When these players win, it just creates a lot of more question marks than it does answers, just because you don't know how they're going to respond after a win. I definitely agree with that, though, DFS Chef. So Christian, I don't know how to say his last name. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. I need to learn how to say it, to be honest with you there. But I do like him. He's a really solid value play, priced at 6.9K on DraftKings. Now, I found myself either paying up for someone like Robert McIntyre or Billy Horschel, if I can, or trying to pay down for Munoz, Griffin, or Ortiz. But I do like Christian a lot as a play this week. He's my 5th rated value play, but I do like the upside that he has. He has been in good form. I just won't go that route over some of the other value plays, but definitely in a week where we're trying to do studs and duds, that is going to be the route that I go with, trying to fill in, mix and match these value plays in there with those high tier plays, which brings up a question that I saw quite a bit is, what kind of lineup build should we be going with this week? And every week in these WGC events or these no-cut events, I always get trapped into playing the mid-tier, and that's just because typically the mid-tier is loaded. And you look at it this week, it is. I mean, Paul Casey, Colin Morikawa, Patrick Reed, Gary Woodland, Bubba Watson, Mark Leishman. Then if you even go up a little bit, you got Bryson and Tommy Fleetwood and Xander. I want to make my builds from those points, but I know just based on history that typically you want to just pay up for the studs. And I'm talking Rory, I'm talking DJ, I'm talking Rahm, and I'm talking Webb now. And then filling in with the values below just because of predictability. More times than not, those guys that are priced up that high, they're priced up that high for a reason. And more times than not, you give them 4 rounds on a no-cut event, they're going to go out and score. And that's the main point here, is that they're going to go out and score on these no-cut events. You do have to factor in scoring as a whole on these no-cut events. Checking the questions here a little bit more. Yep. See, that's what everyone, I guess it's, I don't want to say everyone knows that you do studs and duds on these no-cut events, but you're just kind of forced to do it just because that's typically what goes well. If you hit on the mid-tier, low-tier play that goes on and wins or top fives, you're going to have a good week, essentially. It's just kind of how it goes. It's 50-50. All right, I'm reading David's comment here about just why he favors these events, just because I find it interesting there. See, this is where, there's different types of DFS players. Some people like to kind of max enter and do that route, so that's probably why people would like the WGC events a little bit more and stuff like that. Me, I like to play a little bit more cash, so I like to play full cut events a little bit more, but I'm reading this comment here. 8K guys, fine. 6K guys. I agree with that, David. I like that. See, those 6K guys do miss the cut, but I'm not sure how much of the 9 to 5 videos you've caught. A lot of time, we've been really good with the value plays this year. I think that's kind of the calling card with 9 to 5 is the value plays typically. Last week we didn't have anyone miss the cut, which was pretty cool. Pretty rare that ever happens for value plays. I think I mentioned like 7 last week. That was pretty awesome to see. That won't happen again probably ever, to have that many value plays make the cut in a full tournament or almost full tournament field event. All right, so I did have another question as well. Course history versus current form for this specific event. Typically those go hand in hand, but I did start to favor a little course history a little bit more. But I feel like everyone else was also doing that as well. So it's weird. Like, I feel like Paul Casey's going to be more chalky than he should be because he's not in the best form, but he does have great course history. And this is an event where I do think course history starts to factor in a little bit more. So it's like, I like Webb because of his current form, but he also has played this course. So I think that is a good factor. But let's say this question really came up because it was basically Abraham Answer or Sanjay M. Now, Answer is in a little bit better current form, but Sanjay's a better stat fit, and this should be an event that he plays well at, and it's a full tournament field event. You're giving him 4 rounds versus 2. Answer has course history, and obviously, he's got the whole narrative going as well. But it's pretty much, do you favor someone more with course experience or recent form? I guess a better example, let's find it. Where was it? I forget the specific question, but it was something just like that, where player A had better course history and player B had better, current form. Essentially, you just got to break it down to the 50-50, where maybe you just look at the stat fit. AK guys missed the cut too. So talking about missing the cut, how many times has the chalk missed the cut this year? It has been insane. I don't get it. Like, the best stat fits are like missing the cut this year, and it's starting to like become mind-blowing just this whole season. It was Bubba last week. I mean, I think it's been like JT, Webb, Ricky, and other previous weeks. Just a lot of random missed cuts out there this year. Hideki, going months back. It's just been kind of a crazy year this year with like these chalky missed cuts. You like Morikawa and Xander this week, or and Schauffele this week? So Morikawa I do like this week. I don't see the point of playing Morikawa this week, and this is just more because of where he's priced. I'd much rather play Paul Casey, I'd much rather pay Gary Woodland, and then also go with Bubba Watson. So he'd be like fourth in just that range in general. But also, I would rather go a little bit lower and maybe attack. Just go down to like someone like Hatton, maybe even Benny Ann, Billy Horschel I like a lot as well. So I'm not playing Colin Morikawa this week just because there's better players on that range. And then Scotty Scheffler, yeah, I do like him a lot as a stat fit this week. I did have this question come in directly as well. I do like him a lot as well. Great stat fit. He's top 12 in total driving and ball striking this week. He's just overall just a solid stat fit. So just looking at stats, he's top 10. If we look at, my model ranking, he's top 30. So, that's above half, which he's priced below the half of the field. I like him as a play. My problem with him is that, once again, I would just rather go with Munoz, Ortiz, Griffin, and, some of those other value plays. I'd rather just drop it down a little bit and then raise my ceiling up a little bit more, if that makes sense to you. Hey, Grizz, what's up? So, Casey, Bryson, or Hideki. So, if I just have to choose one, it would be Bryson for me this week. It'd be Bryson, Hideki, Casey in that order. For sure, you could flip-flop Hideki and Bryson, but those two are kind of interlockable. I really like Bryson this week, to be honest with you. I think he's going to come out firing Hideki. He's just been struggling with his putter so much. And yes, he will have a good week with his putter eventually, and he'll go out and contend for the victory. But I'm just rolling with Bryson this week. Your favorite 6K play on DK? Let's see here. So if we're just looking at overall, my favorite play is going to be Lanto Griffin, just because I like his upside a little bit more. But honestly, it's really close between him, Munoz, and Carlos Ortiz. I like Griffin just because he's 100 cheaper than Munoz, and he's 100 more than Ortiz. I think Ortiz will be a little bit chalky just because of the narrative that he has going this week. I'm not really sure about that, but really, it just depends on how many lineups you're playing. You just got to mix and match the value plays this week. It's tough to predict which one's going to go off for 4 rounds. If it was a no-cut event or if it was a cut event, we'd have a better answer for that just because we'd be able to better predict which one's going to make the cut. But when you add in those 2 extra rounds, it's more about scoring. And I think Lanto Griffin gives us the most likelihood to produce a higher score. And then we also got DJ or JT. So between DJ or JT, who's going to be most owned? Is JT getting talked up? I hope JT's not getting talked. It's got to be DJ, right? DJ's got to be the most owned. All of his starts have been really excellent, except for the Pebble Beach one, which he kind of just played poorly on Sunday when the weather was poor. He didn't have a chance at winning, so he kind of just wasn't don't give a fuck mode, pretty much. So I think DJ is going to be a lot more chalky. And if you're asking for ownership reasons, I think I would just rather pay or play John Rahm there instead of JT. That's just kind of my thoughts on it. Who are your top 5 Euro players? Can you be more specific with that question? Just in general, or this? I'm guessing it's this week. I don't know if you mean Euro or just non-Americans as well. I don't know. Sometimes that question's a little bit hard to see. Schauffele or Reed? Well, price point wise, definitely Schauffele. Definitely rolling with Schauffele price point wise. Any Sergio this week. So Sergio is definitely looking at. It kind of goes back to the point again where I like Woodland a little bit more. I like Bubba a little bit more, and I like Casey a little bit more. You got Morikawa there as well. It's just that range is kind of loaded, and I don't want to overextend myself in that range. So I decided not to play Sergio this week. But if you are finding a reason to play him, I'm not going to blame you. That's going to be a good play this week. Or Oosthuizen. No Oosthuizen this week as well. Just echoing what I just said, I would much rather pay up for Bryson or Tommy Fleetwood. If I'm ending up in Louis' range and I already have, some of those players around there, I think I just would rebuild. I don't want to overload myself on that mid-tier this week. Victor Perez, I did look at him pretty deeply this week. I did not end up on him. That's one of those plays, once again, where I'm not going to talk you out of it. I totally get it. I got you. I'm reading DFS Chef's comment there. So yeah, I typically do not like to listen to other DFS content providers just because I want to kind of fade the noise. I don't want to know what everyone else is playing just because I want to factor in my own stats. I've seen when I listen to other people a lot that I tend to either overthink it or, I essentially do. I just overthink it too much. And then I don't end up on the players at the percentages that I typically would have. And then my player pool gets too big, and it's just not a good thing. So I do like that stat about Lanto Griffin. I do expect him to return value as well. That's a good call there. I am playing Rom. And yes, I already answered the question about Christian B. I don't know how to say his name. I didn't know I was going to get asked that much about it this week. I should have looked up how to spell it or how to say his name. Yeah, I like him as a sleeper this week. He's my 4th ranked value play this week. Howell or Rafa? So yeah, I saw that question come in on Twitter. So I think Rafa definitely has much more upside in that $20 on Yahoo there. Grizz, I would definitely go with him. Howell does seem a little bit more safe. Rafa's kind of been hit or miss. I know Howell has been as well, but I think Howell's a little bit more safe. But I definitely like Rafa's upside, so I'd roll with him this week. All right, I'm about to be wrapping up here pretty shortly, but I do want to mention a few value plays on Yahoo. I didn't make a specific slide for it this week just because it was a WGC event week this week. There's a ton of players at $21 that I liked as well, and Grizz is already stating that we got Rafa and also Howell right there as well that are pretty cheap as well. I'm going to pull it up here on my phone just so I can see, and then I'm going to touch on the Puerto Rico Open here just a little bit. So if you have any questions about that, get those in, and then I'm going to be logging off here so I can join the boys at the tab here shortly, in about an hour from now. Pulling up Yahoo real quick. Oh yeah, so even like Jordan Spieth is priced at $22 this week on Yahoo. Like, I love that. Colin Morikawa at 23 on Yahoo. I love that as well. But Bubba Watson at 25, yeah, I'm just locking that in on Yahoo this week. It was Billy Horschel that really stuck out to me on Yahoo, and I've touched on this a little bit. I think this was mostly on the 9 to 5 membership page. It's Billy Horschel is the exact kind of play that I like in this WGC events, just because if he goes off, it's going to be a top 10. We already saw that at a few of the no-cut events earlier this year, and he's just been hit or miss. He's either going to suck or he's going to go off. There hasn't really been an in-between for him, so I do kind of like that this week as opposed to normal weeks where the predictability is low, but if he does go off, it does seem like it could be a top 10, and that's just going to be more of a Yahoo play. Yeah, I'm going with Lanto Griffin there, David. Definitely going to be rolling with him a little bit more than Christian. I just like the upside a little bit more, but I do think that Christian's going to be a little bit lower owned. I don't think he's getting talked up as much, but although I'm a little bit worried now since I'm getting asked about him quite a bit on this one. All right, I'm going to be talking about the Puerto Rico Open here now. So get those questions in about that or about the WGC event. Then I'm going to be logging off here shortly. So I'm pulling up the data sheet here on my phone just because I didn't want to have 2 print-offs here, which it's kind of the tough part about this week is that there's 2 events. You're kind of focusing on both of them, which kind of means that you're focusing on neither of them. I don't know. That's just kind of how it goes. Let me pull it up. I will say that on the Puerto Rico Open, I have never had a week where I am leaving this much salary accumulatively on my DK lineups. It's like 700, 600, 1,000 on some of them. And the pricing is just, they did a weird job on pricing for the Puerto Rico Open. There's a ton of plays at like the low tier, a ton of low tier plays that are just too cheap for their likelihood to make the cut. And then the 8K range is just not as good. There's just as good of quality of plays in the 8K range than there is in the low tier range. So one of my favorite plays is going to be Tim Wilkinson on the Puerto Rico Open. I just like his price point. Cameron Piercy is going to be, kind of a GPP play. If you're going to like bet on an outright winner, I think that I would think about him as well. I just like that play. The events that he's missed the cut in, he's played well at. I pulled up the stat. He is -9 on cuts that he's missed the event at, and that's what the +5 mixed in there. So obviously he's been playing really well, except for that one event. He's just the rest of the field's been better. So if you take the field strength this week, he should at least get a top 20 or 30. I did not talk about my thoughts on Fleetwood yet. I do really like Fleetwood this week. I know people are basically trying to find reasons not to play him this week, and I get it, just because he hasn't played in a while. That does worry you. You never know how a player is going to exactly respond. Who was it? Jim Furyk a few weeks ago. He missed the cut with that bogey on 18, like Bubba Watson last week. Gosh, that's still I forgot about that. The last 2 weeks I've had players bogey on 18 to miss the cut. I forgot about that. But he hadn't played in a while, so that was the only worry with him, is that he hadn't played in a while. I typically like to play players that have played at least 2 events in a row. I prefer 3 events in a row, and then go from there. But I do like him as a play. If we look at his stats from last year, he'd be an elite stat fit in this field. He does have good course history, 3 straight top 20 finishes, and maybe him not playing in a while could actually be a benefit because he's eager to go out and play well. It kind of goes hand in hand. All right, going to be closing up here as always. Do like to touch on the membership page. The link is in the description below for this. It is $10 a month. I did add a membership chat. I don't know how much I'll want to use that, just because the advice that I give on there is pretty straightforward. I don't want you guys to have questions, essentially. I like to lay it out for you, my thought process, so that gives you an easier and faster time to get that information and make the lineups the way that you want to make them for that week. So, I was a little bit hesitant about that chat. But it is out there right now, so if people want to use it, they definitely can. It's going to be there for everyone. I did create a separate page for the stat model as well for that week, just so it's a little bit easier for everyone to look at as well. Thoughts on Bubba? I do like Bubba. Oh, you're just saying Bubba from last week. Yeah, the putting modes, they can't get any worse than that. I do have love for David Hearn at the Puerto Rico Open. I didn't originally, and I just ended up on him a lot as my 6th player in my build, so that's why I kind of like him. He is a decent stat fit. He's made 7 out of 10 cuts, so I don't mind him. I'm going with Graham McDowell. We've seen him have upside. I think he's a little bit more motivated as well. I still go back to that quote from 2 weeks ago when he said, it's nice for my kids to be able to see my highlights instead of having to look them up on YouTube. So I like G-Mac. I like his upside a little bit more. All right, guys, we're going to be heading out here. And like I said, I will be going live with the DFS Tavern here shortly, so check for that. Thanks for watching, guys. I always do appreciate it. Got up to 23 viewers and had a ton of chat going this week, so I do really appreciate that. I do want to say one thing before I get out of here. Limit your player pool this week. Limit your exposure this week, and your player pool. Trim the player pool down a little bit more than you typically would, just because it's a smaller event. If you hit, you're going to hit big or decent. And if you miss, you're just going to miss. That's just kind of how this week goes. So limit your player pool, and because of that, you want to limit how much you're putting in this week. Save it for the next few weeks, because we are starting to get into the really nice part of the season coming up here next week and the following week. So save your money for the next few weeks and have a good rest of the season then. All right, thanks, guys. We're out.